Hi everyone, this is Dan from Allsopp Allsopp here. Just a quick note before we dive into the episode, this isn't going to be one of our usual podcasts. In fact, it might be one of the most important conversations we've ever had. Today, I'll be joined by some of my colleagues to have a raw, honest conversation about men's mental health. Too often, struggles are hidden and tucked away behind a brave face, but that silence can be devastating. These conversations aren't just important, but they're essential. Please listen with an open heart. This matters. Thank you.
I've never played it in like more than two people. I get it.
So you meet scissors. Yeah? Do you do rock, paper, scissors for it then?
I can tell it's very sweet.
Come on. What we start with doing like 1, 2, paper, scissors, shoot.
Yeah.
Shoots. 1 tap, 1, 2, 3, shoot. What paper does you shoot? No, 1, 2, 3, shoot. It's not a show. It's shoot. It's not banging 3 shoot. It's 1, 2, 3, shoot. 1, 2, 3, shoot.
Same again.
Oh, no. What else? He goes first.
No.
Oh, no, he's winning. Right, not behave, scissors, shoot.
Used to. No, yeah.
As in, shoot, eye contact. Rock, behave, scissors, show.
Good idea.
Go on, get the first one.
Has to be them first card.
Community chest.
Here we go.
Do not take.
Let's start. Why do you think men struggle to talk to each other about how they feel?
To shoot.
I'll start.
Yeah.
So, I think men in general, I think it's just a huge cut that. I think, in terms of like men, obviously we speak about, the usual, speak about football, might speak about work, might speak about women occasionally, some blokes do. But I think, talking about your own feelings, I think is felt as like weak, insecure. I just think like, it's just the whole agenda, women, I think on the other hand, I think, they speak openly about their feelings, their friends, what's going on with their like social life, and with their partners and things like that. Whereas men, we kind of doesn't really fit into them 3 categories. What you speak.
Do you find it difficult to talk about your own?
I have in the past, but I think now, I think I'm fairly open, I would say.
Because I would say probably more so now, being slightly older or slightly maturer, sitting around like this with other men or other people in similar positions, I find it far more easier to talk to than when I was probably in that age of 18, 19, 20, where you're a bit more...
I think you're trying to prove yourself at that age, aren't you? Like,
you're vulnerable.
You just close your book a little bit more, don't you? Because I think you think in your mind the ego side of things is anything you say is a weak impression of a man, when categorically now, I think you learn that the more you talk, probably a lot more people are going through a lot of the similar things that aren't actually as bad as you probably have got them in your mind.
You said it there, like, as you get older, you do become more mature. Like, for me, I think, like, when you're younger, it's all bravado, isn't it? And stuff like that. It's like, when you ask the question, I'm thinking to myself, do those stereotypes even still exist?
It's a confidence thing for sure.
Yeah, like,
Confident you are, like you said, when you're kind of around people that we're sat down here now, we all kind of know each other, we're confident around each other, so you can open up and say, this is how I'm feeling, or this is what's going on. Whereas if you didn't necessarily have that, not necessarily confidence, but that, I guess, support network or the friends around it you are kind of comfortable having that conversation with, it may or may not be difficult.
Don't get me wrong, I still think even now, although I've probably come over a lot of hurdles in terms of openly speaking to your friends and family, I still think even in your mind sometimes when you are struggling, you still kind of think it'll be all right. Like, wait till next week, wait till the week after, I'll talk about it then. And then I do think sometimes you can let things go too far where you're at the point you just think...
But how have you felt when you actually have sat down and like expressed and open how you're feeling? Is it like, has it helped you? You thought, okay, that's a weight off my shoulders, or?
I don't know. I think that could be, I don't know, because you guys have probably been there as well, where when you do speak, sometimes you can feel a release, and then sometimes you can be like, I don't know, sometimes when you bring up something that's been negative or hurt you, you almost relive that little bit of trauma, or you relive that negative experience, and you walk away from that conversation feeling, I would say, slightly worse. And then it isn't until like the week after or 2 weeks after, subconsciously you start processing it, and it's not actually as severe as you probably thought once you've physically spoke it out.
I think lads do bottle things up though, don't they?
Head in the sand.
Yeah.
Head in the sand. Let it all blow over. And how often does that actually happen? Does it blow over? No, it just builds up and builds up. And
I mean, I've always like, I don't know if it's like good thing or bad, but I've always been quite emotional. Like I've always been quite open with my feelings and stuff. Like maybe not like my mates, but certainly like your family and things. Like that's just like, I think that's how you brought up like a really close knit family. So if there was anything bothering me or anything, I was always just open from a young age about how I felt and things. But as I said, I wouldn't, you want about discussing things in the pub, I wouldn't necessarily go to my mates and be open about it and stuff. It's more just me family.
No, definitely when I was younger, I wouldn't have conversations with friends about emotions or situations or anything like that. But being in our environment, especially here, you're in a high pressure job, high pressure environment, the push to succeed, it's constant, it's 110 miles an hour. You do have to overcome that barrier in your mind and think, probably do need to speak to other people who are in the industry or doing the same job to actually see,
relatable.
Is it me just feeling this or is it all of us collectively? But I genuinely think, looking at a few of my friends and seeing it firsthand, I think now the world, and it always gets repeated, the same thing, especially with social media and how accessible everything is. No matter what you do, you can be driving home in the car, you can stop just as you're about to get in the car, you look at Instagram, someone's buying a new car, buying a new watch in the Maldives, doing this, doing that. And constantly in your mind, you're like, I need to do better, I need to do better. And it's a subconscious thing that I think, even if you don't think that when you look at it, you feel it.
But you know what, you're not either, I've not been on social media since I was like 23, 24, I think I got rid of it. So like, my missus always laughs, she's always like, oh, you literally don't know, like, especially being over here, you don't know anything that's happening in the news or anything like that. I'm not on Daily Mail or anything like that. It's a bit of a cheesy cliche thing, but it's like comparison's the thief of joy. Like if you're constantly comparing yourself to other people, you're never going to be happy, are you? Do you know what I mean?
I wouldn't even say that I'm an individual that does that, but I think
subconsciously.
Sure. I think it almost forces you into that mindset, and then that I think that fuels a lot of people's insecurities and fires. Whereas if you were isolated away from that, it wouldn't be there.
Go for your mind.
No, you wouldn't.
But you're not on it either,
no, I'm not. And for that reason, I mean, look, I've got access to analyst Instagram as well, so occasionally look on there. don't want to look at a kind of search history on that. But I'm not on there. And I was on there briefly for a bit, but all I found myself doing was just literally scrolling, waiting for the kind of to see someone's announcement or the next holiday or the next watch they bought. And I think particularly out here, it very much is a case of you do naturally compare yourselves. That person's done that. That person's bought a watch. They bought a Rolex. They bought a Patek. That person's now moved into a townhouse. So you're constantly looking at, kind of what the Joneses have done and kind of thinking, how am I going to get to that next point? And it will have an impact on you for sure.
But obviously, you guys, not so much Matty, but once you have the children, I don't know, I felt like there was a complete and utter mindset change. Like it almost instantly, as soon as you have the kids and you realise that there's so much
what's important, wasn't
it? All of the things that I probably looked back when I was younger, like, oh, you want this car, you want this holiday, you want this house, almost seemed to be irrelevant. You still aspire to get better things and do better, but
it's a different purpose, isn't it?
The journey and the direction of it seemed to just go more towards
the kids.
For them.
Yeah.
What's next for them? Yeah. What are we doing to make sure they're secure in the future? What the holidays weren't about us. It was like, is it good for the kids? Everything is about them. And I just feel like the mindset from the buying personal items and things, it's completely dissipated once I had the children. But I don't know whether that's the same with you guys.
No, mate, I mean, I'm the newest dad out of the three who've got kids. It'll happen for you as well. Like everyone says beforehand, like
he's got a kid. Alice Timberlake, Jade Marseille.
A few kids.
not running around mum, you're on it.
Speak to him still, yeah.
But no, like everybody says it before. I remember having conversations, you Rich as well. Like you can't really describe it until it happens. It's weird. It's like there's a feeling comes over.
It gives you all this advice, and you kind of like.
It's just weird. Like it's like you said, the switch flicks. It's like all of a sudden you just feel like content, and then you're not comparing yourself to other people and thinking, oh, maybe I'm not as far as I'd like to be, or it'd be nice if I had a little bit more, whatever. Your perspective just changes on everything.
And anybody in Dubai or anybody in our role, especially sales, is always going to have this inbuilt desire to achieve or win. You don't succeed in this job if you don't have your eye and your competitiveness isn't switched on, which can be massively positive in success, but can also be detrimental to your well-being if you don't have a kind of control on.
I was going to ask you there, so obviously Rich and I do slightly different roles than what you guys do, and I didn't really want to talk too much about like the job, but it's such a big part of our lives, we kind of have to. Do you feel like doing the job that we do has contributed potentially to like how you feel and stuff? And
it controls. It doesn't contribute, it controls it.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean,
again, that's what nature is. The fact it's like commission only, the fact it's sales, the fact it's like what part of it do you think it is?
I think it's, you've obviously, like for me, I try and compare yourself anyway to what you did in previous years.
Yeah.
But you just find yourself looking at that leaderboard constantly, you know, it's in your face.
Yeah.
And it should be in your face because it drives you on.
Yeah.
But like you go to bed at night, it's the last thing you look at, first thing you myself anyway, obviously it might be different for yourself, Key, with the kids. But like, it's the first thing I think about. Like I wake up, check my WhatsApp, what messages I missed out on. And my girlfriend, she's like, why don't you just take half an hour before you go to bed and don't look at your phone? I said, well, someone else will be looking at their phone and take the deal.
Yeah.
So again, it contributes how you're feeling inside. Even when you go on holiday, you're not really on holiday.
Nah.
Like, again, there's no real such thing. Like Christmas, I think I can take like the good, like potential week, 10 days off. But other than that, when I'm away, even when you're on the plane, you've got Wi-Fi, you're still on your phone. So I find myself, I just really struggle to switch off. I try and celebrate the wins now more than what I was, because I think if you don't celebrate like the little wins here and there, you know, take a day or two off, or, you know, you might treat yourself to like a round of golf, etc. And just little wins. If you don't do that, then you end up just getting caught up in a cycle.
I just think Matthew's probably hit the nail on the head really in terms of us being in a sales role. There is just, it doesn't ever stop. So, and I know for you guys, you're basically on call for the brokers as well. So in that essence, it doesn't stop either. But when you're in a job where you can walk away at 5, 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock and you can kind of leave the job at the door, you kind of get that mental break.
I remember back at home, like it was once I got a call off a client on my mobile. It was when I was off work for a week. I remember thinking, who's giving this person my number?
And you were always getting angry about it.
Yeah. It's like, but you did have that disconnect, didn't you, on the outside of work?
But here, I mean, Matty, if you get a call at 10 o'clock at night or 10:30 at night and it's to go through a contract or it's even an inquiry or whatever it is, you're doing it.
No, of course, yeah.
You're not.
Happened to me last night. It was like 10:15. Our lass has gone to bed. And then I'm on the phone. She's like, what are you doing answering a call this time? I live in a call centre. And I said, so I went on the balcony and answered it. So, literally like prime example last night. I mean, it wasn't particularly late, but it was just a case of why I'm answering the phone now.
It's a lifestyle, isn't it? Not a job.
Yeah.
It is. You're here for that kind of lifestyle. And like you say, there isn't that disconnect that you had in the UK where you kind of leave work at 6 or 7, then that's it done until the following morning, 9 o'clock, it literally is.
But coming back full circle to it, it does control.
Yeah.
As much as you can be, I think that's possibly where the real good agent.
I was just going to say, you guys are really successful, and that's
you kind of, even if you take, let's say, a deal's falling apart at 9 o'clock at night, I think what I've learned, especially lately, and I don't know if they're the same, as the years have gone on, I'd almost take that to bed with me.
Yeah.
And you still feel like that when you wake up in the morning. Whereas now, if there was an issue or something, I'd take a step back, breathe, think about it, and then address it better.
Yeah.
Whereas I think
you get built up in the moment, and you get probably potentially maybe a little bit angry, or you get a little bit upset with the people involved, and then you go, okay, take a step back, give it 10 minutes, maybe go in the shower, make some food, and then come back to it, and then your mindset's just different. Yeah.
Do you know it's a mad one as well? This is maybe a more broader discussion about men's mental health. But you said like it's a light that takes over your life. We're talking about the job again. Do you know what I mean? That's how you just got, you know what I mean? That's how to just consume your next card. That's what you do.
At least about to say, yeah, it's going to be a long process just on him.
But that's the thing. That
10 minutes.
That's how. What does it say?
Get comfy.
Interesting. Do you think feeling the pressure to be the breadwinner of the family as a man is a silent struggle that still exists?
I'll kick off. I've never had that pressure. I'm quite fortunate in the fact that, like, my other half, she's always wanted to work. Now, obviously, she's not in the minute because we've just had a little one. He's only like 5 months old. But even now, she's already talking about how she wants to go back to work and stuff. So I just think with the cost of living and everything now, especially but even back at UK, what have you, it's pretty difficult, I would say, for like to be a one like salary, like one income family.
Yeah.
Like, I know that your half works, yours, like,
I don't know how you even do it. It blows my mind sometimes. And I know obviously there's the kind of like the opportunity to earn ridiculous money out here that kind of people that we know do. But I see them, I think, like you've got mortgages, you've got kids' school fees, you've got holidays to pay for, you've got just everyday living costs.
Do you think that's still a thing that exists, or like, do you think that's still something that men worry about and think about? Is like, I'm trying to be the breadwinner. Yeah, what do you think?
So. You might not, but and I wouldn't say, and I'll be dead open and honest and say this: my wife and my family don't put pressure on me to provide anything.
Yeah,
they're quite content and happy with what we have because we have amazing things. But I think subconsciously, as a man or as an individual,
you take that responsibility.
You always want to, even if you doing or achieving, you always want to do a bit better. Have a bit more, and I think you always want to provide. And I think that it comes from when you've.
Because your parents, instinct parents. Yeah, I think like I think my grandparents, probably you guys are saying, granddad went to work, grandma looked after the kids. So like 5 kids, big families. Yeah, you're not really getting the 4, 5, 6 kids as you did, many years ago. So I think that whole family dynamic has changed in the past, let's say 30, 40, 50 years ago during our life. So I think in terms of like men and women, my mum and dad have both worked. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, same things, guys, as well. Like, so it's a case of now. Yeah, we need to work and we need to carry on working. But yeah, being the breadwinner, I think is still obviously, he's still very traditional and still very much there, apparent.
I definitely think it's still a stigma that exists. And I think even though it might not exist amongst your couple, my couple, us here, I think it's people still judge it. Yeah, people still look and think, and yourself, there's very successful women out there now that can support the husbands, and the husbands don't need to work, and the people pass comment on it. The people do that, like, she earns more than him. It's like, does it actually need to earn it?
That's freaking.
And we're all jealous.
I'd welcome it for a week. I'd welcome it for a week.
Yeah. But on that, if I'm dead honest as well, being a stay-at-home dad, although stay-at-home mums, I think, is arguably a ridiculously hard job as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because
it's the hardest job.
If you look after your children, well, Matthew, not at the moment,
Alex.
But when you look after Alice, no, but when you're looking after the children, and then you think these stay-at-home mums are literally doing everything from 6 o'clock in the morning till when the children go to sleep, and then a bit more, whether it's to
do a bit during the night
or whatever, and
they do it during the night.
Get up in the night, and
it's a hard job.
That's also a hard job. So, yeah.
Get next one. Yeah. Have you ever felt completely alone with your thoughts or feelings?
In stages where I have. Yeah, for sure.
I have massively. Like, when I first moved here, like, myself and Lauren were living in the same country for the first 5 years, and like, big drink or anything, I don't go out. Like,
I am.
No, I mean, like,
what about before?
Part before guy, yeah. But like, I was actually I got the point where I was quite content being by myself, and like, you think you think of things all the time. Yeah, like, there's not sort of like eating away of that, but yeah, like, there's been times where you just sort of sit and reflect and contemplate. I think it's important that you do reflect, because you just said there before about like social media things. Sometimes you do need to take a bit of a step back, I think, and just think of like where you actually are. And, you know, it's about, I think, in terms of like wider topic of like men's mental health and stuff, I think I always try to remember that there's people out there who are probably in a much less fortunate position than what you are.
Without a doubt.
So,
Without a doubt.
yeah, like I have done it where I've sat there and got time to think and just reflect.
I think sometimes as well you forget, obviously going back to like the whole kind of lifestyle out here, you know, kind of work and everything, you do sometimes so busy comparing yourself to people out here, when you do take that time to reflect and think, okay, what are people back at home doing in the UK? And not saying that we're kind of better than anyone back in the UK, like far from it, but there are some people in the UK, here in Dubai, wherever they might be, that, you know, we're, you know, kind of, you know, a lot more fortunate than, let's say.
Yeah, for sure. I think being alone, I think sometimes, you know, like you said there, Dan, like it's good to reflect, but then I think being alone for some people, like for me, it's not great. So like when I first came here, I was in a sharing apartment and it was the best thing that could have happened. Yeah, I stayed there for 3 years because it was cheap. But
Not like you.
No, yeah, I saved a bit. But but for me, there was 6 of us all doing real estate. Some were at Allsopp, some were at other companies. And the best thing for us was we could come home after a day's work. And it was the first, like, you know, especially the first 6 months, first 12 months, you know, it is very tough. And
Not there for each other.
and you're there and you can just you can vent your issue. But, oh, this person's done this today. Oh yeah, I had this as well. And you just venting your issue and then venting their issue.
It's like a therapy session. You have a little back and forth amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough to be in that position as well. But maybe after 12 months, I used to go home and there was no one real estate related there.
Right, yeah.
And it was a bit like staring at the four walls, because no one would have that connection. But in terms of feeling alone with your thoughts and things, I've definitely 100% been there. And it's not because, like, Jade's unbelievable, very supportive emotionally, but I think sometimes you hold back what you're saying and your thoughts because you almost don't want to put a downer or a negative on their day. Like, they might be having a great day and then you're sitting there saying, I feel like this, I feel like that.
Yeah. That leaded to the first question as well, like about the male stereotype and stuff sometimes.
Definitely does, doesn't it? I think it's got a link. You almost keep your emotions and your feelings in. Again, not now I'm older, I feel like you can talk about it more freely, but almost because you don't want to pull other people down, or you feel like you're pulling other people down, even though you're not.
Probably why you felt like you did when you, like you said, you're kind of young, between the age of 18, 25. You imagine going out when you're 18, 25 on a night out on a Saturday night with the lads and you're feeling down. Everyone's like, in the UK, when we're that age, that's all you kind of live for, was going out on the Friday and Saturday. You imagine being sat down in the first beer or first drink someone's having and going, I've had a really bad week or a bad day. You'd be getting
You'd get annoyed.
Yeah.
But you get annoyed, you'd be like, shut up, bitch, we're on a night out, like, crack on.
Yeah. And then that escalates further and further because then you're going to speak to.
And then you just shut it down and then you keep it.
Yeah, exactly.
Go on, Matty, grab a car.
On a roll here with the cars, by the way. First one, 20 minutes in.
Yeah. Has trying to have a brave face ever actually made things harder for you?
To have a brave face.
Like trying to make them bravado, like I said.
I can't really think.
Really, I think subjective question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think there's certain situations where having a brave face can be to support your family in a difficult time or a difficult period. But I've never really held a brave face to keep things together if I'm really struggling. I think now I'd be more open about it.
The only time I can think of, I was just like, once you were talking now, I was having a time to like have a think. Is just like if there's been like a loss in the family or something like that,
yeah,
and you feel like you need to sort of step up for the other people around you. I feel that exactly.
That happened recently to me, but what I think with the question is, yes, I did have a brave face on for that period of time, and when you're in the days of the events and the funeral and everything else, you do have a brave face, even though it's incredibly difficult to keep that. And even with the conversations leading up to it, you're speaking to your family about arranging things and you can almost feel it yourself, but you think, everyone else is not got a brave face.
Yeah.
I need to be that.
That comes back to, isn't it? Is it do you feel that's your responsibility as a man? Do you know what I mean? Is that your role?
But, I mean, what was the last part of the question? Made things harder.
I don't think it's made it harder because you're in that situation, like you say, he was talking about, you know,
I feel like
funerals.
yeah, it's like a duty that you need to do it.
Yeah, people around. So it's like my grandma's funeral in February. She passed away, and I went back for it. And obviously, my granddad's there, and he's like, you know, well, my grandma was the head of the family, but obviously now, she's passed. Granddad's there, and I'm kind of looking at him, and again, he's probably trying to put like a brave face. Don't get me wrong, like it's the first time I've ever seen him cry. First time I've ever seen my granddad cry was at my auntie's funeral, which was a month before my grandma's funeral, and just seeing him kind of upset. But I don't think he was kind of feeling any worse. Obviously, he's kind of put on this, trying to put on this, kind of brave front that everyone was okay. But I don't think he kind of made the situation any harder.
That's what I'm guessing.
It's like different ways of coping, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? That's what it is. Yeah. Get the next one. Get through them. It's your turn again, Rich, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got a little arms. You have to pass it me. Old T-Rex in the corner. Why do you think men feel more comfortable showing anger as opposed to sadness?
Interesting.
Do you know what, I said it before, like I've always been an emotional person, like, and it's actually been a criticism, like in work, especially when you start leading a team and stuff, like however you feel, it does have an impact on the team. So like probably in the last like 7 years, I've been a lot more aware, but certainly when I was just working for myself, when I first came out here, like if I was having a good day, I was having a good day, I was on a bad day, I was on a bad day, and people would know about it, and you could pick up from it. Can't really do that when you're leading a team, and you'll probably say same thing there, but I've never really, like, if I feel something, I've always sort of acted on it. I've not like, what was the question specifically about anger again? There was like,
so why do you show anger versus
I wouldn't say that I default to either. Like,
but you're probably quite a collected, calm character in that sense.
I've grown that way.
Yes, but I think all of us have, because I think when I was younger, I would probably default to anger rather than.
I think a lot of people would.
And I think it's probably difficult for a lot of people to admit that. But I think I would probably relate it almost back to like a peacocking thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't curl up in a ball and be like, oh, the shouting and the anger is probably why men do it. Is makes them feel probably more powerful subconsciously. I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess it's that kind of release of build up tension, whatever it might be. I've done it before. You've had arguments with whoever you had arguments with, and you've kind of not hit them. Let's address that straight away. Never hit a good, but you've kind of maybe, do you know what I mean, punched the pillow, or you've punched the wall. You've done something, do you know what I mean, in anger. 100% we've all done it. With a shadow of a doubt, maybe you've got in your car and you've punched the steering wheel. It's just that, like.
I'm probably going to say that. I'm probably not display because I could never back it up.
What is your ratio in a fight? How does that over what? This is a belter, by the way. Now,
so I've been involved in 5 physical altercations, 0 wins, 0 punches landed.
5 knockouts the game.
So yeah, but I'm saying I can't back it up. There's the evidence there.
I like that, Dan. That's good.
Right, who's next? It's me, isn't it? I'll pick another one. Okay. This is quite a deep one. Have you or anyone you love ever hit what was considered rock bottom?
Yes.
You or someone you love, mate?
Both.
Do you want to talk about it a bit more, or?
Yeah, I can openly talk about it now. I think quite closely after it, I couldn't. It again, I feel like it's subjective to what you deem as rock bottom, because even mentally for me, what I thought was rock bottom, I know there was probably people out there looking at me thinking,
but it's how you
got this, you've got this, you've got that, you've the other. How do you feel like that?
Yeah.
And I think it's very, very difficult to fully explain how you feel. I just had Roman, and there was a period of time where the pressure financially to move, the medical costs, everything was massive for a 6-month straight stint. And essentially, me, Jade, and the baby, we'd come out the other side of it and we were all fine, financially fine. And then it was literally about 2 weeks after that, everything was set up in the new apartment. Everything was great. We'd employed amazing help for the house. she was amazing, and it felt like the calmness almost stunned my mind. And it was one day I woke up, and I'll never forget it. I drove to the office in JGE, and it was almost like it was like an out-of-body experience. And I opened my laptop, and normally you sit there, you open your laptop, you've planned out your day, you know what the steps are. Right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to come to market, I'm going to do this. And I literally remember opening my laptop, looking at my screen, and I couldn't even, it was like my brain had just almost froze like a computer, and I just didn't even know what to do. And I literally sat there for about 15 minutes, and I could feel like the anxiousness and the nervousness just take over me. And I literally, if anybody knows me, I don't stop working. I'm 100 mile an hour, do not stop ever. And I literally shut my laptop. The first time I've probably ever walked out of work or a job feeling like that. Put my laptop in a bag, drove home, and I'll never forget. I rang Darren. I said, mate, I need to see you. He's like, why? What's up? He said, you sound upset. I was like, do I? I couldn't put that connection together. And then I sat with him, and then I could see he was just looking at me, and I think at first he thought I was leaving, but I was like, mate, I said, I don't know what's up. I can't function. Like, I can't prioritise my jobs. I can't think about problem solving. I was literally like, I don't know what I'm doing next. Anyway, I ended up, and obviously you guys know this, I ended up off work for probably 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks nearly. And I was still working, but not fully immersed in it every day. And I think going back to that, even during that period of time, it was tough. Like, I can genuinely say, you don't want to leave the house. You don't want to be in social settings. It's very difficult to talk about how you feel, even though now you're older, you do want to express that. And for me, that was possibly the most challenging time I've ever had. Going back to it, Jade was phenomenal throughout the whole period of time of that. But it was the people around you, like Darren, Mark, Lewis, collectively had put their arm around me during that period of time and said, look, we can manage anything you need. And again, the more and more you spoke about the problems, you realised that there was solutions. There was
only more support
that you can get through. But for me, the biggest thing about it was, up until that point, I would never really...
You weren't as open.
Again, stereotypical, but I was a bit like, Alf.
Yeah.
And then when it hit you, like a train, you realise that there's so many important things. I think I went through 7 years of just your work, no break, no nothing. Like we talked about it before, in this job as a broker, you don't stop on your phone, even when you're on holiday, even at Christmas, even on planes, even when you're sleeping. You wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning in the UK and you've got messages, you're answering them.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop. And I'd done that for 7 years flat out, up until like 2 weeks where I really stepped away from real estate. And I think it opens your eyes there. There's so much going on in the world that, yes, the job is super important, but you also have to take time for yourself. And Matty said it at the very start about celebrating the wins. If I done a PB or if I done X amount of money, it was never like get in. It was like, okay, what's the next one? Yeah. What's the next step? And I think that is what I was saying with, it's so good to be that person and succeed, but it also can be detrimental to your mental health. And now Jade is the best person for it. I mean, she'll celebrate everything, like a little win. We put a media wall in the house, she comes home, she pulls it. Yeah. And I'm like, but it's nice. Like,
yeah, of course.
That's how it should be. Like, you've paid and you've earned it and you've just done something nice, you should celebrate it. But I'm that person. It's always the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. But yeah, in a nutshell, I can say...
I can't get my head... Not I can't get my head around, but I can't understand what you kind of said then. One thing that you were kind of in this kind of situation, the financial stress and everything else that was kind of going on. Then you said you found this kind of calmness,
That's what.
and then that's when it happens.
Because I think that goes back to my personality. That strangely, I've always performed
Under pressure.
better when there is absolute mountains of pressure on me.
Yeah.
And the second that pressure was took away, it was almost like
And abnormal.
my brain
Yeah.
just went,
Don't know what's happening. There's a purpose.
what's going on here? Like, if you've got enough, get by, everything's in order, you don't have to panic, there's no worry. And that's when it was like, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know where to go. And I'll openly admit to anybody, and I'll talk to anybody about it, the most important thing about getting out of that situation is talking and is going to get professional help. I went, sat down, went through therapy, was given medication, a lot, and it's a long-ish road, but it's a road that.
How was that when you went, and like, who kind of set up that initial step for you taking therapy? Was it yourself, or was it collectively Jay?
Me. I think when you, maybe as a man, when you stood there and for the first time in your life you can't compose yourself, I think that's where, as an individual, and I'm sure some individuals in that situation won't be able to recognise that, and I think that's where I was okay in one sense, that I recognised that I was in that position and I needed help, whereas I've seen people who are in that position and they just carry on, and that's where they go real low.
Like, that's what you said is quite important, is because you said when you start to talk a lot more and more, you realised how much support there was there around you. But I think until you make that initial, until you initially voice how you're feeling, you're never ever going to know.
But then the hardest thing is you come out of it. So say it's a 2-3 month, it's going to be different for absolutely everyone. But say for me, it took me probably a month to get back to normal, whatever you want to categorise as normal, where I was doing my daily tasks and no one would really know. I was a lot more quieter than I was. But realistically, it probably took me 6 to 12 months to get back to the confident, the chatty Kieran that I always was. But I think deep down, you never really fully heal from it, if you know what I mean. It's still, because it's still there. But the hardest thing for me is looking back on it, and it's the you play this time of guilt, like as though you were a burden during that period of time for your family. But you know your family are there to look after you and stuff. But again, we're looking about the man thing and men and the stigma of it. That's where it catches you. Where you're like,
yeah, because they wouldn't want you to be feeling the way that you felt, and that
you are the foundation. And at that time, I couldn't be, and that will always stick with me. But the one thing that I've used that for moving forward is to just tell myself I never, ever, ever want to be in that position again.
Yeah.
And that's how I kind of motivate, and I enjoy being a lot more present with the kids and with events and everything. We went away to Abu Dhabi. I used to have my phone glued to my hand, but for 35, 40 minutes,
not going to work.
put it down, go with Roman on rides or go and experience something, then I check it.
Enjoy the moment. Yeah, of course.
I just think it's tough to, you've got to be present these days, and you've got to take them moments where you do take a break and just let your brain relax.
Massively. I always look around, when we've been to like a few sporting events like UFC and boxing or whatever, and I'll always just kind of stand there and watch it. Not one of these people that kind of get my phone out and film it. And then you look around and everyone's kind of, I think it's just like, the in things to do, isn't it? But it's there and it's like, what's going to go on Instagram next, or what's the next highlight really? It's this, and I'm there, and I'll say to Annie sometimes, put your fucking phone away. Like actually, just enjoy it.
Guys, even with Jade, and it's amazing.
He's going to look back at that. Exactly.
It's amazing because she takes all the videos of the kids, and she's got loads of videos of me and the children. I have none of her children, and it's not because I don't want to. It's because, one, I'm not crazy on videos, but I just enjoy watching it
in
with
real life. Yeah, of course.
But I always joke, and we always go back to it. I remember being a kid and going into like you said about going to a UFC. Say you went into a concert or a football match. I remember walking into Anfield, and you'd stand there and you'd just have that sense of like euphoria, where you just be like overwhelmed with like, what is this?
Yeah.
And it's sad, but I don't get that anymore. And I think for me anyway, with the children, I'm definitely going to be saying to them, enjoy them moments, because as you get older, that magic
of course, it
wears away. Yeah.
In terms of, I was just going to say, usually serious of like,
Just a shame I'm key as well.
yeah, good mate. Yeah. And yeah, in terms of like darkest or deepest place, also we're just going to go back into that now after we've just celebrated Disneyland and stuff.
No, but you should.
Yeah.
Again, I think, especially probably for me and you, Matty, not also you guys, but one, we're agents on the floor, doing the job day in, day out. And also, I think a lot of people would look at both of us and think, they'll never be like that. They'd never experience that. They wouldn't go through that.
Yeah.
And then that I think that's what personally shocked me was I never thought I'd go.
Yeah.
I never ever physically thought that I could get there.
Yeah. So mine was like a lot younger. I was at school, so a little bit of background.
How old were you?
So I moved from, so when we finished primary school at 11, basically we moved like an hour away.
Right.
So again, that was like a family decision. Mum and dad divorced, went with mum, an hour away, and my accent, obviously it's toned down now, and a lot of people sound a bit posh now, to be honest. But yeah, so like my accent was like a main thing because I went from basically West Yorkshire to like Lincolnshire, where the accent's completely different. So that was like a bit of Mickey taken here and there. But that was like little things, and then just got like certain nicknames, etc., which was fine, because just water for ducks back at that stage, and then it was like constant, and then it like really hit a low in like year 8 because it was just like it was like one or two main individuals, but then it was like a few others, but it'd be like every day, and it got to a point like I loved school, always growing up, always like did okay at school as well. Like many top sets for like maths, English, science, etc. So I always loved going to school, and then it was like a case of I was just anxious waking up, just like pure anxiousness. Like I don't know if you call it anxiety at that age. Like I don't know if that was a thing. Like it's 20 years ago.
Sounds like it definitely is. I just think it's more openly discussed now.
Yeah,
I think a lot of kids had anxiety, but it wasn't
labelled.
Yeah.
So I woke up every day with like just fear, and then I went to bed like most nights like just crying, and like mum heard me one time, came in and was like, what's the situation? And I was like I was in like a tough place. Like I'd wrote like notes to say like bye to people and things like that, and I don't want to come across like so deep now because like 20 years ago nearly, but yeah,
but the thing is, amazing.
I wrote these notes and saying like, if you don't see me again, then this is like, I want you to feel like this and I've still got them at home. I think they're in some sort of like locked box that I had. And then like had it kind of like all prepared, and then like just one time I just ended up breaking down to my mum, spoke back to my mum, got sorted with school, and then it was just, it took me, like you said, Key, like a month or two to kind of come round, and it was really like 12 months, and then like 12 months later I was then like starting school play and things like that, and it was just like, how have I been?
It almost gets I can't even explain it. It's almost like this cloud or this curtain gets lifted, and then you look back on that time and you think,
I wasn't feeling like that.
Was that?
And it was like, it was over a longer period of time, probably the whole thing, but like it was just built up and built up, like you said, again, not speaking about it again. I mean, fortunately that my mum obviously heard me and things like that and came in, and again, like you remember things like this like crystal clear, and then the next day straight into school, all kind of got sorted, and then it just takes your time, and then over time, then you still feel it a little bit, and then obviously you still see these faces, etc. But then like everything's just changed. Like a year or two later, just completely different. And then almost on a flip side, when that was when I was 12, 13, came here I think when I was 26, 27, 26 I think. Almost like starting this job again. It wasn't a case of I'm being bullied, X, Y, and Z, I'm thinking these thoughts, but like you wake up every day and almost like you don't want to go to work because you still put zero and you're still on zero. And these first like 3 months, and all you're doing is seeing your bank account going down and down and down. You've got your bank account set up over here, but you're just using like your Monzo card or whatever card you're using, and you're watching your money go down and down. And it's anxiousness when you wake up to go to work. And you're like, well, I've either got to beat this anxiousness or I fly back home.
Yeah.
And fly back home for me was just not an option.
Yeah.
So
Fly or flight.
Yeah, exactly. So it was literally like every single day I was waking up and I was like, I was anxious. I had to get over that anxiousness. As you know, Dan, rushed into the office most days just on time. And then like,
Sorry, it's not at all.
yeah.
But do you not find,
No fines, no fines.
do you not find when you're mostly relaxed in this job, and you said about rushing into the office, when you're almost anxious, you almost like hang a bag on getting to the office early, and you almost want your day to go quicker.
Oh no, because I was putting off going to it.
That's what I'm saying. That's why you were late. But
Yeah.
as soon as you start making money in that, it's easy to get up.
You're different on the phone. Your tone's different. You're different on viewing. You're not desperate for it. You're not fighting for it. I think you say, like, I know we've kind of like gone back to the job a little bit again, but it's like you're almost mirroring like your client when you're on a viewing. They can see you're relaxed. Like 9 times out of 10, if you put a few deals on at the start of the month, for the rest of that month, you'll just fly through.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you know yourself, if you've gone 60 days, 90 days, 100 odd days without a deal, even like for me, it was the start, and it was like, right, you're knowledgeable enough, you can tell them the information, but then they can almost read. And I think looking back, you see certain clients and you're like, how did they buy through me? Because I was just like desperate for that deal at the time. So I mean, please buy. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's just like, and I think lettings, obviously, you kind of, I went straight to sales, but like if you are on lettings, then you're almost like fighting constantly to get that same thing. But I know, like, when people are buying, it's such a massive purchase for them. If they see something off with you, I think they'll just completely go off you.
Yeah, the trust gets broken, doesn't it? That's the big thing with it. I mean, look, I'm fortunate that I've never sort of been in the same position where I've like hit rock bottom, what have you. But like, I've obviously known people where they've struggled with things. I've always just thought, like, I wish they had have like said something, because after the events, like you've said, Kieran, you start speaking about it, like, you'd want to be able to help them, but I think at the time people don't talk about it, do they?
That's the worst thing
Do you know what I mean? We don't talk about it
in your mind.
That for me was, it wasn't even even when you want to talk about it,
you can't.
Yeah.
the physical
Words.
conversation.
Yeah.
That's what's the scariest thing about it. You're one person
Yeah.
and your brain's the other.
Yeah.
And you're fighting that. You're just fighting it.
I would rather write it down and tell someone this is the thing.
I don't know if this happened or not, Key, but when you were feeling how you were feeling, did anyone other than Jade approach and say, like, is everything okay? Because people maybe see you kind of different traits and you thought, okay, he's not himself at the moment, and sat down with you and say, look, is everything okay?
I think a lot of people wanted to approach me.
How do you think you would have reacted in that situation?
Because I think a lot of people wanted to approach me, but because they probably knew me for a long time, I think a lot of people just think, you'd be all right.
Yeah.
And people did approach me in a private way.
Okay.
And it was very nice to see that there was a lot of people that you don't realise. And unfortunately, especially when you see a lot of these young men that take their own lives, it's often too late, that they don't realise how big of a network you have around you. You can sit there, and I sat there 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, wide awake, pacing around the apartment, pacing around, and you feel like you are the only person on the planet with them problems.
Yeah.
And it's far too often now that I see, and I'm open, and that's why I speak about it. I see young men taking their lives, and then you see pictures of the funeral, the party afterwards, and you're talking hundreds, thousands of people that would have done anything for that people. And it really, really unsettles me that there is that stigma and people still don't talk.
No.
But like I said, you can get into a place of you physically cannot get them words out.
Did you obviously Key went to suck help, when you obviously were a lot bit younger, did you speak to anyone, Matt? Was it like...
Yeah, it was mainly counselling, really. That got me through, which was part of like all really. So yeah, that was it. It was just like, okay, where's this come from? X, Y, and Z. And then it was almost like amalgamation of that, as well as like losing like family members as well. So then that kind of went into that stage. So yeah, just speaking to a counsellor, they're a third party. They're not there to judge you.
Yeah.
So I feel like that helps, because if you've got like a family member, and like you said, Key, there, like you hit the nail on the head, like you say what you want to feel, but you almost hold a few things back. A counsellor, you sat there and you're like, right, this is it then, let's kind of talk it out as much as you can. Your job is to help me. I'll tell you everything I can, which again, at the age of like 12, 13 is a lot tougher. But I think now, yeah, you'd literally just be there. It's you and them. It's their job to help.
Do you feel now going through that experience? I feel like I can openly talk about the majority of things now.
Yeah.
To anybody though, I don't feel like I've got any stigma anymore, because I think I am who I am. I know I'm confident. I know I could do this. I know I do that. I'm not. If somebody now, I look at it as somebody wants to judge me.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. I guess so. And like you say yourself, like, are you ever going to get that low again? Obviously, in your life, you hope not.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't think that will. Them thoughts will kind of go through, my mind again and things like that. Because I think that's the lowest you can get as a human being. Is basically not being a human being. So I think ultimately, that, however, if I have a bad day at work, or if, like you said, if you had like a bit of a bad run of things, if you have bad news, Rich, I know you said about it there, like, however bad your life can be, I don't think it can be as bad as what you were at that lowest spot. And obviously, I think that's the long and short of it. Yeah.
Cheers for sharing it, boys. Both of you.
Mate.
Hey, go, mate. I've not looked at it.
Probably really relevant, and we've probably talked about it. What's one small step you've taken or seen another man take that genuinely helped their mental health?
Look, for me, as I said, I'm not fortunate. Touch what I've not directly suffered like to sort of levels that some people have, but I always just find like having routines massive. I think if you've got a routine and you've kind of have a purpose, you've always got something to work towards, what have you. Touched on it before, not being on social media for me is a massive thing. Like when you're not comparing yourself to other people or exposed to other people's opinions and things, like, do think that helps. I was listening to something like a while ago, and they actually said like people of our generation, we're like a unique generation, where the last generation who can remember life before the internet.
Yeah, well, we did when we were.
Hence,
I mean, luckily for me, when we were growing up in school, we didn't have. It was only really the real end of seniors going to college that. So it was MySpace.
Well, you think like that,
and it was nothing. It wasn't like now these kids have got Instagram and they're 11 years of age, if not younger, in primary school now, but senior school.
No, that's the thing, like that. Them formative years when you like find out who you are and things like that. I could not imagine what it would be like with a social media, with the internet on your phone. It's like
you compared yourself to 30 people in your class, and that was it.
Yeah,
and that's all you had to look at.
Yeah, exactly.
And then people maybe in football clubs, things like that.
Yeah,
that's all you had. You didn't have millions and thousands of people.
Well,
so
you didn't have the world at fingertips. You weren't looking at kids who were, I don't know, God knows, 13, 14, 15 now, driving around in whatever they're getting driven around in and going on holidays in the houses and all that. You were pretty protected in your own bubble, in your society, and you found yourself in your own path through that. Don't get me wrong, I think social media's got a lot of benefits, and a lot of these young kids have created businesses.
Of course it has, yeah.
The entrepreneurs that's created from it is amazing, but I do think it has to have some...
It was just the internet in general, I remember. And I was trying to say, I can't remember if I was in year 6 or year 7. It would have been year 6. And
I never had internet when you were in.
No, mate. No, this thing.
I don't know what I'm laughing, I'm older than him, but
that's 3 points. I had to find something else. I'm trying to think. It was called, I'm looking at Rich here. No, I was looking at you two. It was called called Encarta. It was like a CD encyclopedia thing where you like, I'm sure that's what it was, but if you want to find something, that's the thing. Like you just go on Google and stuff, but it's like, to think like, oh, what life was like before the internet to now, I just think there's so much more pressure to become whatever. Do you know what I mean? I think there's societal pressures, and you've just said it there before, you're exposed to like everybody. You're not comparing yourself to your 30 classmates or...
Definitely coming back to the question though, in terms of steps of what people have taken, massive thing for me, and I even see it with men that aren't necessarily at rock bottom or anything, and I think it helps with mental health a lot. For me, you hit on a point of routine.
Yeah.
Me, Charlie does, Mark. We
Train every morning, don't you?
every morning, and believe it or not, if you miss a session and you go to work,
Has a massive
day
impact
and
on it.
how you feel
Feel the same?
is
Huge.
is weirdly different.
Yeah.
And yet, don't get me wrong, the alarm goes off for 5:30 and you think, fuck that.
There's the first swear word.
But the impact that in your day,
You peel yourself up, you get to the session, you know, they'll beast you.
Yeah.
And then you feel, you have your shower, you bounce into work and your mind is already...
Well, it releases endorphins, doesn't it? Like, it actually does. It releases endorphins. So, like, it does. It helps you mentally. Like, I've always gone to the gym. The other day, I slept in for a session.
R4, you go to.
Yeah, like, and look, the thing is now, I always say it, like, I'm not going to be getting on any stages anytime soon. I'm not even getting any photos from my Instagram anytime soon because I've not got it. But the reason I go now, it's just purely because, like, mentally, it's a chance to, like, switch off for, like, an hour in the morning. I'll listen to a podcast, I'll listen to whatever. And it's just, like, a time, like you said, to reflect and, like, gather your thoughts and stuff and get yourself ready. And you do feel much, much better after it as well. That's what's weird for me. I don't know about you boys.
yeah, no, 100%. I agree. Like I said, that hour in the morning, I couldn't imagine going to the gym in the evening now. Obviously, doing the job that, you know, kind of what we were doing. Same for you guys with the clients. That hour whereby, let's say you're not on your phone, coming back and you're dealing with 20 WhatsApps, 30 missed
That's why
calls,
it's so good
20
that
hours.
time of day.
Exactly.
Just
5:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning. And then you say you get that kind of hour to, really kind of set yourself, up for the day.
Routine, exercise, stay clear of social media, stop comparing
Limit.
people on it.
So I have a limit on mine. So
Yeah.
I have 2 hours a day where I can ignore. Yeah.
You can't ignore.
You can ignore, and it's only there Monday to Friday. So, but yeah, like, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, literally 2 hours a day. And then you can't ignore, but it comes up every 15 minutes. Then at least you know. So you're not scrolling for an hour and an hour's passed.
Question for
You
you,
know within 15 minutes that it's used.
you've put that in place.
Yeah.
You put that in place for a reason. Is it literally for that? Like, as in
Work.
for work? So just so you cut shit off.
So don't get distracted.
Okay.
Because you can literally, yourselves, like, you know yourself.
Shut up, Alex, again.
On another quote. But yeah, it's half the battle. It's it's literally just, you can be there for 10, 15, 20 minutes, but as soon as that 2 hours is up, you can crack in on, or you can ignore, like you said, for 15 minutes, but then in your mindset, your mind,
You cheat
got 15
yourself.
minutes.
You're cheating yourself.
Like, fair enough. Like, why do I need to spend more than 2 hours of a waking day on this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, I've seen who Huddersfield have signed. Do you know what I mean?
Nobody.
Still no one.
Turn of mind.
Which manager's been sacked, and I've seen obviously a few things on Instagram, spoke to a couple people on Facebook Messenger, and then like my dad, and that's it. And then find crack on with your day. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, you can just find yourself just going over and over the same thing.
How important do you think for men is time spending with other men in like a relaxed, so away from your family, away from your wife, etc., kids?
Yeah,
How
like-
much do you think is important to spend time with?
I think it's really important on top.
Because I think that is probably just as imperative as the gym, this, that, the other, that you actually, even if it's an hour or you go for breakfast with your mates, or lads have this weird thing where when lads are together, they act like they're 11 again.
Yeah.
And
I did that
so,
week, yeah.
people, I don't think people are, or it's difficult for maybe women to understand that when just men are together, not with the partners as well.
Yeah.
They act 11 years of age or 12 years of age, and it's funny, and you're making jokes like playground jokes, and you're belly laughing on the floor, and it's like other people wouldn't find it funny, but your group of mates, you're in.
Do you know what? I've you boys probably the same, but I'm really fortunate. Like, I'm still like my best mates. Bare minimum, we've known each other since we were 11. Some we've even been mates since we were like 3. I'm still like my best mates, my close circle mates, but I've done right the way through school with them. So yeah, like you said, when we get back together, I'm over here. There's a couple of others like live elsewhere and stuff. It is like I've seen them like yesterday, and you just default back into it. It's great. Yeah, that's brilliant. Like,
I was in a stag do last weekend in Istanbul from one of the lads from school. Shout out.
I just sound like a very popular stag yesterday.
Istanbul, not our shout. It was it was a surprise location as well for the stag. Not my pick, that's for sure. I don't like turkey, and I like Turkish clients and Turkish delight. So yeah, but he do a lot of good things, kebabs as well. But yeah, so I'll stop naming things I like about Turkey. But yeah, so yeah, like I said, like exact same thing. It was lads from school. There's 5 lads who we all went to high school with, and then there's 20 of his mates who he went to uni with. And like the 5 lads, all we were doing is just saying the same quotes and the same stuff. And it was just funny. And it was just like,
You just pick up exactly where you left off.
It's mad, isn't it?
something happened. Some girl in in an English lesson said something wrong 18 years ago. It's still funny. And we're still cracking up about it. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like, how can you just go over the same things over and over again? But that's what you do.
But I think that's
like,
what I meant. It's
so good for you.
Yeah,
So good for you.
It's weird because you almost get lost in that little world that you're in for that period of time.
Yeah.
And then you go back to reality. But I think it's good to have that break.
Yeah. But yeah, lads' holidays, going out for, like you said, the pub, breakfast. If you spend time with a group of lads, like I've played in a few football teams over here, etc., play paddle quite often. Like even after paddle, you can be just speaking about the just maddest things, and it's like you wouldn't have that conversation, like you said, with your spouse, with family, etc., people at work, because you've just got that complete set release. And I think for me, being in sports clubs has been a good release from work, speaking about certain things that you like. Again, you're not going to speak in front of a change room in front of 15 people, but you might pick a couple of people.
Yeah, of course.
That, that you kind of can get along with, etc. So yeah, for me, it's like having that like unity from outside of, especially again, we're going back to the job, but you can get caught up in this job. If you've got other things outside of it, that's really helpful. In thinking why these conversations matter, what's one hope you have for men's mental health in the future?
I think that it's just more openly discussed, right?
Yeah.
And it's becoming more of a spoken about topic, because in your story, it probably wasn't around. No. Well, obviously it was around, but it wasn't, kind of as documented as what it is now. It's very much, still is now a bit of a taboo subject, but I think, just having that kind of openness and people sitting down like we are now. I've obviously learned so much just from you two.
Oh, see,
do you know what I mean? That I didn't necessarily kind of know before. Not saying that I'm going to, do you know what I mean, kind of go out my way every day now to look out, like, do you know what I mean? But you kind of keep one, I'll be conscious now of like...
Yeah, and I think obviously you guys speak to a lot of people running the team, and I think you probably sometimes, even me, when I'm speaking to new starters or people that have just joined your team and they're starting in the job, you don't actually fully know what's going on behind that person's eyes.
That's
100. You can have a rough picture, but you truly don't know what is going on behind them eyes until it's...
You've said it there. It's like one thing, again, 7-8 years of running teams, that you do learn, like, if somebody is performing and it's out of character, first thing that I always used to try and get into is like, is everything all right? There's normally a reason. If somebody's always been a top performer, or like not even a top performer, just like somebody's like
consistent in their work.
If somebody's performance isn't what it is, normally it's because...
But I want to contradict you there. I want to contradict you there on something.
Well,
even when I think the biggest thing about this mental health, that's one thing that surprised me the most, even the people that are performing, and right. Everything is going well. I'm not saying, I know what you were trying to say. If somebody was on this trajectory and then all of a sudden he had a dick, you'd be like...
It was more for like, more for like picking it up, but you're right there, mate. Like, you've just said, like...
The scariest thing for me is a lot of people that I've known that have struggled with mental health have actually been at the highest point.
Yeah.
And it's almost, you've then got imposter syndrome. You've got this feeling of like, it's almost overwhelming. You don't really know.
It was more like the angle I was going at was like, trying to pick up on it. Do you know what I mean? Because it's hard. That's the reason. But no, like mate, you've correctly said there, like, like, a lot of the time it is a mask that people have said it before, like a mask people are wearing, and sometimes the people that you would least expect to be struggling are the ones that are struggling.
You go on nights out, and I won't name names or name people, but we've got people that we know who are so bubbly, light up a room, change the energy in a room in an instant.
Yeah.
And I know them individuals on their own, sat down, because I've spoken to them, struggling.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know,
it's a massive mask.
And that room wouldn't have a clue until, unfortunately, which is what we're seeing and why it's important that it's discussed. It's way too late.
That's the question, and you said it, Rich. And I think as well, like, you boys have obviously shared your experiences and stuff. If I was ever in that place, I'd reach out to you boys because you discussed it. So I think the biggest thing is to talk about it, isn't it?
During that period of time as well, I must admit, Jade and everyone around me was amazing. But you could almost see that they also didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
They didn't actually know how to react to it because it's not like a normal thing.
Yeah.
They're trying to comfort you and they're trying to give you words, but ultimately, and you might be the same, you kind of have to dig yourself out of it.
Would you say
only people can give you a little bit of a proper?
Yeah. So with the question, would you say talking about it, but also as well, like seeking like professional advice instead of like
no matter how amazing your family is and they can do everything, you have to go and speak to somebody neutral.
Yeah.
You have to, because you're the problem inside yourself. It's not the people around you. It's you. And until you go and bridge that problem with a professional who can actually build that bridge for you and make you realise it, you're not going to find the stepping stones to get out.
Yeah. Do you think, though, before seeking a professional or someone that's obviously kind of paid to help you, you mentioned then that obviously if you were going to go through it, you kind of reach out to the boys there. Do you think when obviously you two are in that kind of situation, obviously I know you were a lot younger, but do you think going through what you went through, let's say, for example, I went through it a year before you did.
Yeah.
Would you be confident come to me to say, Rich, I'm going through something at the moment. I know you've kind of maybe gone through similar sort of things. How did you...
I would like to think on the back of this that anybody, not within the company, I mean anybody that would ever need, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour of my time, where they feel like they're at rock bottom, would reach out and would say something.
Yeah, agreed. Massively.
And I'm sure Matty would say the same, because that is the whole problem with it, is that it doesn't get discussed. And I keep reiterating it because it's something that I've experienced, or it's been close to me, or people I've known. It becomes too late.
Yeah.
And that is ultimately where it needs to end. Like, the amount of men that are...
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's just obscene.
So how you felt at that time, if you were watching this now, you would feel kind of...
Especially in Dubai, because I don't feel like... In the UK, you might go to your GP and you might do this. Here, I feel like you're a bit...
isolated.
Where do I go?
You haven't got
where do we go?
You've got back home, have you?
Family.
But I discovered that myself. I found where I needed to go myself. Yeah. So now I could pass that on to somebody that is in Dubai.
In need of...
But one thing we were discussing there, and I think it's key with Matty, is the younger generation or the school side of things. It's all well and good talking about young men, but that is not discussed anywhere near enough.
Oh, no.
That is probably at the bottom of men's mental health.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't just be men's mental health. It should be
everyone's
mental health, because I know girls, women, men who've all experienced that, but especially at that school level needs to be a massive focus, because that honestly shapes people's lives.
Yeah.
They're building their own personality and their own brand. And I even look back on things that I possibly said to people when I was younger, and you're a kid and you think you're joking, but you could be the start of
the impact of what you're saying.
At the time, you're just a kid and you say these things and it's all a laugh, but realistically, you don't know the ripple effect of what you've said.
That's a great point.
I think as well, like you said there, and it's not spoken about enough, Rich. You said that straight away, but I think like us speaking about it now, there's the four of us here. This obviously reaches however many people, but then it's like certain parts of, again, about social media and things like that. Like things like Movember is like, I did it last year, raised a good amount of money, but like it wasn't really about the money for me. It was just mainly about me just putting it all over again, social media, because if people are flicking through, they might see it on the stories, etc. And I had so many people reach out to me and say, oh, this happened to my brother, like this means a lot to me, or like, if you've got like 5 minutes, like he said there, like anyone that's going through anything, like inbox always open type of job, like 100%. So like just me doing that raised 3,397 quid, had 50 to 100 messages. Probably about 5 to 10 of them were, you know, people that have either been through it or brothers been through it and they're struggling to cope. And it was just like, if I help one person, like, if I grow an awful mustache, run 60 kilometers for a month, which run 60 kilometers in a whole month, which most people do in a week. But I struggle to get off the couch. Like for me, like if I can just have one person just reach out to me, that's my job though.
Yeah.
Like I'm not really bothered about the other side of everything. So like, again, I'll be doing that every year, and people do ask you, so, oh, what's that? And they'll grow your mustache, Movember, what are you doing it for? And then that's that conversation opened up.
Just to raise awareness.
Which I think, like, if people can do it and people jump on board, like John Joe, shout out, he's growing his mustache now, about 7 months behind, like, and it's horrific. But, so yeah, like people ask him about it and he said, yeah, I started growing it then. But like, it opens up the question, opens up the door, rather than, you can't just go into a room and go, let's discuss men's mental health.
Yeah.
It needs almost a trigger for someone to say, what's that on your face? Do you know what I mean? Like, why have you got, like, imagine you getting rid of all your facial hair. People,
Did you me doing it?
pass them over if you.
I did it once and nearly lost Jade. So yeah, it kind of hides a lot, mate.
You hit it. You're stuck in it now, so she can't leave you now.
Last question, Matty. Grab the card, mate.
There again.
Might as well.
You're in the middle. You're the chair of it. Paddy McGuinness.
Beyond be strong, what's a better message we could give to young lads about their feelings? And if we worked to change the narrative, what qualities then do you think actually make a man strong? So first part is about be strong. What's a better message?
I think the young part's probably something to pick up on there.
Yeah.
More than the men's narrative, isn't it? I think for young men, I think it's important that we all still have traditional values. We still want to be the man of the house. We still want to be this. We still want to be this breadwinner, this provider, this being, you know, you're never ever going to get rid of that. But I think the message that we're trying to deliver is that no matter how strong or how you feel egotistically, you still should discuss your feelings with people.
Be strong is the same as man up. Why is man up there? Like, why should men have to man up? I think they're like, be strong. It's like, okay, yeah, be strong. Keep it all there. Keep it for yourself. Man up. Like, why are people getting told to man up? Like, you should be like crying should not be seen as a weakness. It should be, a case of opening up a conversation and then going through it. Yeah, so like
that leads into the second part of the question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What qualities actually do make a man strong?
A big one's going to be being able to talk, because that's one of the hardest things to get over.
Like showing your feelings.
So I think that's one of the most difficult things to do, especially when you're younger, and especially when you're in that group of people, and not group of people, but you're in that younger era where everyone's almost trying to be a little bit better than each other.
Well, you're trying to prove yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, of course you are.
You're that fixated on proving yourself, and you don't want it because it is, like I said, a sign of weakness. And it's
we think it's a sign.
It's not. Yeah,
and we've been brainwashed to thinking that's a sign of weakness when actually it's not.
Yeah.
If people could talk and openly talk, and it also works on the other side, the individuals that are listening to them have to accept what's being said and not talk it down or not make a joke about it. The narrative has to be that people can openly talk and the other individual doesn't take the piss out of it.
Yeah.
It accepts it and says, why do you feel like that? Or you shouldn't feel like that because no one thinks that of you, or whatever it might be. A bit of reassurance will go a million miles for people.
Yeah, it's great like that. That's a good way to end, isn't it, lads?
Do you all have like a hug or something? Yeah. Anyone want to talk about it?
Do you want a hug? Is that what you're saying?
I'll have a hug. Go on then.
I'll have it.